I come from a long line of daredevils. My grandfather has ridden almost 430,000 miles on a motorcycle, roughly half of those with my grandmother on the back, calmly reading paperbacks tucked into gallon Ziploc baggies so the pages wouldn't fly everywhere. My aunt has done a 635-mile sailing race from Rhode Island to Bermuda several times, and recently left Connecticut for Alaska after falling in love with the last frontier while on a survival trip. As a single mother, my mom used to pack up the car on weekends and take me hiking or rappelling or camping. We went so frequently, my optimal conditions for sleep became a blow-up life raft for a bed, a belly full of campfire stew, and wet hair from baths in the lake. Also, I'm literally the only person on my mom's side of the family who has not wrecked a motorcycle. With that kind of pedigree, you would think I was born with nerves of steel. Yet, as an only child, I concocted scenarios centered around fear. Fear of everything. A simple walk to our car easily became a life-threatening adventure. I could be abducted by aliens, or eaten by the monster underneath the car, or kidnapped by a band of gypsies. When I was 12, we moved into a house on an airstrip with a wall of glass in the living room. One night, home alone, I convinced myself there was a gunman in the pitch-black nothingness on the other side of the windows, his scope fixed on me. And when I needed a glass of water, because fear makes one thirsty, I had no other option but to army crawl into the kitchen, making sure to stay below the countertops or else be sniped. While my waking life was filled with fear, my dreams were filled with fantasies of flying. I would be high in the sky, a cool breeze whooshing past my ears, with a bird's eye view of the world below. Soaring above everything, I felt the joy of being aloft and the lightness of freedom. As I got older, my fears became more crippling. Fear of rejection and failure, fear of not getting what I wanted or losing something I thought I needed. And while the fear center of my lizard brain was probably helpful when my primate ancestors were being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, in my day-to-day life, it lacked the ability to distinguish between the threat of being eaten by a predator and the idea of being forced to eat next to that one coworker at the company picnic. As a result, I spent a good deal of time vacillating between a mild sense of impending doom and full-on fight or flight. I coped with my fear and general anxiety by abusing drugs and alcohol, a crutch I relied on until August 8th of 2010, my sobriety date. But I'm not here to tell you the story of my recovery. I'm here to tell you how jumping off a cliff changed my life. At Thanksgiving in 2011, I showed my family a YouTube video I'd become obsessed with called Grinding the Crack. Maybe not the best name for a skydiving video. It features Jeb Corliss, a base jumper and wingsuit pilot, leaping from a 7,500-foot peak in the Swiss Alps, zooming through the valley at 100 miles per hour. And while watching it gave me chills, general admiration for daring do is as far as I got. However, my mom watched it once, looked up at me and exclaimed, "I want to do that." My mom was serious. She did some research and discovered that flying a wingsuit requires 200 freefall jumps. So, for her 55th birthday, she wanted us to make a tandem skydive. I probably shouldn't tell people I got into skydiving because of my mom, but it's the truth. Fast forward to her birthday that summer. I'm in a Cessna 182, 10,000 feet in the air, strapped to a tandem instructor, about to go skydiving for the first time. Looking out of the plane, I saw only a terrifying quilt of green and brown. I balked. Time out. Can I just ride the plane back down? But when you're strapped to another human being, your options are limited. In a flash, we were on the step and in free fall. Because leaving the relative security of an airplane to hurtle toward Earth at 120 miles per hour goes against every human survival instinct, my lizard brain took over. What I remember about that first jump is that the wind striking my face felt like tiny icy needles, and that free fall felt more like floating than falling. At the horizon, I saw the curvature of the Earth, where the sky, a deep royal blue, faded into a light baby blue as it rose into the stratosphere. All too quickly, my tandem instructor deployed our main canopy, and we went from horizontal terminal velocity to vertical suspension from the most beautiful parachute I'd ever seen. Floating down to terra firma, a calmness washed over me. I was hooked. Minutes after I reached the ground, a high-pitched shriek pierced the air. "Oh my gosh! That was so fun!" It was my mom. 2,000 feet up, and I could still hear her. She was hooked too. Within the month, we began free fall training. For the first few jumps, my reaction remained, "I'm gonna die." Then, on my 7th jump, something changed. Exiting the plane at 2.5 miles above Earth, I experienced mindfulness, for maybe the first time in my life. I saw everything in slow motion. I executed the maneuvers exactly how I'd practiced, maintained altitude awareness, and deployed my canopy safely, all without the near constant chatter that usually filled my head. When I landed, I realized that a lifetime's worth of lizard brain responses had simply been a chemical reaction, and it could be overridden. The joy that came with that discovery was liberating. From that moment on, I ate, slept, and breathed skydiving. Mom and I worked hard, nearly every weekend, driving 5 hours to Skydive Dallas. Arriving late Friday, we'd camp at Lake Eisenhower, wake before sunrise, and drive to the drop zone in the dark. Eating yogurt and muesli, we blasted Odessa and the Barr Brothers and sang along. We dreamt all week of those jump day mornings. Just in time for Mother's Day, we earned the licenses required to jump together for the first time. A photo from that jump made Parachutist magazine. So now I have the unique privilege of sharing a centerfold with the coolest mom ever. Later that year, I participated in the American Revolution Boogie. I was invited to join some experienced skydivers for a few jumps. I spent the next 6 hours flying through enormous cumulus clouds across from a man who had the kindest, most amazing blue-green eyes I'd ever seen. Every time our eyes met, I felt a jolt of electricity. It didn't hurt that he was funny and smart, and took it well when I half-jokingly called him a hipster, because he's a hipster. We bonded over our shared love of obscure bands, jorts, and Instagram posts with vague captions. As a friend put it, "Y'all are perfect for each other. You're both weird in the same way." Today, that man, Paul, is my husband. I have jumped about 250 times. That number impresses WUFOs. That's all of you. It's short for what for, as in, what for would you jump out of that perfectly good airplane? But it's actually a small number. I still have much to learn. Making that first jump has given me a deeper, more meaningful relationship with my mother, who is a true heroine in every sense of the word. In leaping, I found the courage to love with abandon, and the temerity to pick up my life in Arkansas and move to Dallas. And it's given me the gift of finally seeing and loving myself as the fierce, tenacious, and capable woman I am. But what keeps me coming back most of all is the feeling I get when I exit the plane and the rest of the world falls away. My lizard brain shuts up, and there is no moment but the present. And then, just like those dreams I had as a kid, I get to fly.